Blog Talk Radio.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.
We're going to have enough time to play that at the end because tonight, Joker has taken over the show, guys. We're in Gotham City. We're live, and we already have one of our three guests. Hopefully, they're going to be calling in a minute, the other two, but we already have. Who do we have on the line? Let me ask.
Hey, it's Eric DePriester.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, Victor?
So Eric DePriester from Treason's here tonight, and so he's going to be talking about. Anyways, I'll let him finish at the end, but he wrote and produced and directed Treason for the Hollywood Fringe, and then we're going to have Yvette Saunders. She's also an actress. She's known for her Notorious Moms. And then Nelson Alburquenque, he's not kinky. His name is, but he's not kinky. He's a musician. He's a really good friend of mine. And anyhow, those are the critics tonight because we're going to be talking about Joker. And those who haven't seen it, please stop listening to this podcast right now because we're going to spoil every single thing about the movie. So stop now. I'll give you a chance to stop and go ahead and watch the movie and then come back to this podcast and then resume because we don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it because obviously you have to see it first. And we already have the guest, the second guest on the line. Hi.
Hi.
Who's this? Oh, Nelson.
Yes, it's me.
How you doing, Nelson?
I'm doing great. How are you?
No heat, no listen. I am good.
Yeah.
I already have Eric, the Priesters on the line. Here's Nelson Alburquenque, who's not kinky.
Hey, how you doing, Nelson?
His name is kind of kinky.
I'm doing good.
And so, anyways, I was telling the audience that we're talking about Joker. And without further ado, because I already told them to stop this podcast if they haven't seen the movie, we're going to spoil it for you. So whatever. And don't sue me because I can't afford it. But anyways, let's start right now. Have you guys seen the movie?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Okay, so Eric and Nelson and I have seen the movie. What are your thoughts?
So I guess overall I thought it was a interesting style. Like I thought it was well directed in parts, although I would argue that most of the best directed parts were kind of borrowed from Scorsese. I thought Joaquin Phoenix was brilliant, but I thought that he was just let off the reins a lot, and I think some of that really worked, and some of it had a looseness and a weirdness to it that I think it worked at times, but also kind of just grated on me a little bit. Some of the illusions were just so honestly, the mirror dance was, I was thinking so vividly of Taxi Driver the whole time that I couldn't get past that. But, overall, I thought it was well executed. Joaquin was brilliant. Todd Phillips borrowed from all the right people and made a visually interesting, well-done movie. But I don't know. It just moments of it just stuck out and like on the Barry Glitter sound cue when he's coming down the stairs really bugged me for some reason. I understand a little bit some of the societal pandering about what kind of message this brings. I don't subscribe 100%. I don't think it's an irresponsible film or anything that the harshest critics would say. But I would say that there are parts of the ending that left me feeling a little troubled, a little icky. So overall, I would definitely recommend people see it. I think it's an interesting, compelling work of art, and again, I think Joaquin is brilliant, like he always is. But I truthfully don't really love the film too much. I'm definitely in the. I would be surprised if it got a Best Picture nomination, but I wouldn't be surprised if Joaquin got a nomination.
Right. Well, that's for sure. I mean, Best Actor nomination and possibly a win. I agree with you. But let's hear from Nelson, because I don't want to give my thoughts on it yet. Nelson, what do you think of Joker? Or do you agree
I thought,
with Eric?
well, the thing is that I haven't seen Taxi Driver. I haven't seen actually a lot of films that critics have said that, a lot of the cinematography was taking, not copying, but had influences from. So I'm not aware of those films. But when I saw it, the first time I first saw Joker was the first trailer that appeared on YouTube that got generated a whole hell of a lot of buzz. And I watched it, and I really loved the trailer. And that hyped me up for the movie. But after I saw that trailer, I didn't want to see anything that had to do with Joker until I saw the movie, because I didn't want any, bias seeping into my experience. And so when I did end up seeing the movie, it was far different than what I thought it might be based off of the first trailer. I actually brought my mom and dad to see the film, which is like they're 40 years older than me, and it was definitely not really their cup of tea. But
okay,
I enjoyed it the first time. I didn't know exactly what to make of it the first time, especially the ending. I really enjoyed Phoenix's acting. But the sequences were very jarring. Like a lot of the actual murders that take place were so realistic, and it felt very real. And I think that was kind of jarring from what I might have thought that it would have been. But I think it's a kind of movie.
were you expecting that, or were you going? You know what I mean? Like some people were saying that they thought it would be more gory than it was, or more violent, or more or less violent than it was. Whatever,
It's not exactly the gore. It's just kind of just the almost like heartlessness, that's depicted. That kind of threw me for a loop, but I enjoyed it.
Right.
And I think it's really the kind of movie that. I'm sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's a kind of movie that requires seeing it a couple of times at least, because when I saw it a second time, I actually very much more enjoyed it the second time through than the first time. There's some things that I hadn't thought of when I first went in, with my eyes wide open. And the second time, I could appreciate different things a little bit better, or I could ask more questions, or, just look at the plot in general. So.
Yeah. I mean, I myself would like to see Taxi Driver before I go see Joker again, just to make sure that I know why there's so much talk about the similarities. I've seen Taxi Driver, of course, starring De Niro and Jodie Foster back when she was a teenager. And she was a prostitute, and he was a taxi driver, and I forget the other woman's name, but anyway, I didn't see the similarities as much as people were saying. I wasn't even thinking about it, I guess, because I had not heard that there was so much comparison between the two, and there's so much controversy about this. I also, like you, Nelson, I did not want to see any headlines about it, any reviews about it. I wanted to just make my own opinion. Now, having seen the movie and seeing the people's reaction of the movie, I was very disturbed, to say the least, because there were some parts of the movie that I know were not funny, and people were laughing about this in the theater. And I'm specifically going to spoil it for people that haven't, seen it. But there's a scene in the movie where he's on stage on an open mic or whatever, and he's, not able to perform as he would have thought he was going to perform. He thought he was a wonderful comedian, or he was in the audience and he was laughing at the wrong times, when there was no punchlines, making basically a fool of himself, or not knowing how to react, right? And I guess people get nervous when they see that. I don't get nervous because I've been to so many open mics and I know how to control it, right? But it's the point that they were making fun of the character. I think that's I don't know why that was more disturbing to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me rambling, but what do you guys think?
So the people laughing at Arthur, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That was disturbing.
Well, they were laughing at how bad he was, or how, what I mean? As the character later on makes fun of him too, on TV, and I don't know. What is your impression of that?
Thing. Because when I saw it for a third time, I went in different. I saw it 3 times. Once was with my parents. Once was with myself, and there was like only 2 other people in the theater. Then the third time was a few nights ago, and the theater was pretty packed. I was actually kind of astounded that it was so packed. And I noted, where the audience was laughing, and it's just, that audience of that show was laughing, but they tended to laugh at Arthur. I think what the movie might have not have made clear was that Arthur's laugh, a big part of it, had to do with his kind of diagnosis, we never learn what exactly it is that he's suffering from, but we come to learn that he can't always control his laugh. And there's a part where he was, that same part where he goes to Pogo's and he gets up and he starts laughing. He can't even tell a joke.
Right.
And people were laughing at that. They weren't laughing. There's nothing to laugh, with. They were laughing at Arthur, but I don't think they really understood that he wasn't just being awkward, but in the story he's supposed to have this crippling psychological, quote unquote illness. I don't really like that term, but that's what he supposedly has in the story, and that's what's causing a lot of his laughter. But they were just laughing at him because they thought it was funny that he couldn't deliver. I don't know. I was kind of perplexed by that reaction.
Yeah. Well, and that's not the most disturbing part of the movie, but I think what happened, and I later found out, I found this out on YouTube, watching other people's reviews, is that whenever he laughed, that was an indication that whatever was going to happen was fabrication, that he was fabricating this story, that he, at the end, is revealed that his version of the story is not really accurate 100%. So whenever he was about to laugh, or whenever he was laughing hysterically, like when the father slaps him, or whenever there's like a traumatic event, that's when it triggers his laugh, and that's when the alter ego comes out, the Joker himself comes out, and it makes sense because, you know, I think it makes sense. So
I'd be interested to track that on a rewatch. Honestly, I wasn't paying that close to the sequencing of that, but I would say that speaks to one of the things so the flashback nature of it I thought was interesting. The reveal of, you know, especially the side character with I'm forgetting her name right now, but the actor from Atlanta, the neighbor down the hall, her
name, by the way, is her name is the character name is Sophie, but her name is Zazie Beetz.
Yeah, Zazie Beetz. That's right. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting reveal, and like, you know, you had the sequence earlier where he's imagining himself on De Niro's talk show, and what I would say about the flashbacks, and, you know, maybe the laughing is a trigger. On the first watch, my assumption was that he had so many extended laughs that it's probably not that tightly connected. But one of the things about doing these kind of, like the earlier De Niro flashback was very whimsical. It was fantastical. It was clearly a daydream, and the Zazie Beetz stuff was, yes, clearly, you know, if the first watch I wasn't as skeptical, and I was just kind of taking it at face value, but, you know, you can go back and see the signs that clearly that functional of a courtship was probably not in this guy's cards. So there is a fantastical delusional type element to those daydreams or you know, false flashbacks, whatever you want to call them. But I would argue that if they had, you know, I'm not saying they needed to be cartoonish, but if there had been more consistency in tone between those and the other violent ones, or the De Niro one earlier on, it would have been easier to track, and it would have made more sense. And I guess part of the charm of it is you kind of left doubting how much was real, how much was invented, how much is his alter ego. You know, it's you know, it's kind of a mind screw of an ending. But part of the consequence of doing that is that you're not really sure what you saw. If there's not like a firm grasp of the reality of the narrative, you know, like even like a Charlie Kaufman Crazy, you know, Synecdoche, New York, you still have some certainty of the ground footing, and I feel like Joker lost that through its inconsistent flashbacks for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, this is what I got. I mean, I didn't get this through the movie either, like you, Eric. I was just confused because there were some points where, remember the scene where he's talking to the other clowns and he's laughing because they said something funny, right? Or offensive. And so he starts laughing, and then he turns the corner, and then he stops laughing like in an instant, in a snap. And so that was a clue for me, and I'm like, whoa, that was weird. So there's things that you're like, what? Okay. That was weird. Why? Okay, that's a strange thing, right? But only, I guess this is only the thing that directors or writers will know. We'll never know. We can speculate all we want, but, you know, and people can make their assumptions, and they already have, and the only thing that I can take is that some parts of it were true and some parts were not true. But I do believe that the trauma that he went through as a child, that did happen with his mother, that attached him to the radiator, and God knows what happened there. I believe that's true. I believe also that there might not have been something to do with Thomas Wayne, which was basically revealed that he might be the half brother of Batman, or Bruce. So things like that, I'm like, okay, I can see that, because why would Thomas Wayne be so adamant about hiding this, his affair with Penny Black, which is Arthur's mom, right? So there was something to it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to believe as much as I want to believe. And some things I'm like, well, I can choose to believe that or not.
Well, I think like I've seen people on YouTube, because YouTube is like the new hot place for like theories and reviews and this and that. And I can't remember who it was, but someone was saying how, Arthur stops being, well, he's not reliable to begin with as a narrator, but he's super not reliable after his medicine gets cut, or it's implied that he's not going to get his medicine. When the worker says, they don't give a shit about you, they don't give a shit about me either, this kind of thing. But the movie is already, I was already kind of thrown for a loop in a way, because the scene that you were talking about earlier where they make fun of Gary, the dwarf, and they say, I think it's Randall who says, is it mini golf or is it regular golf for you? And that's when Arthur walks away and laughs and blah, 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 blah. And then he steps into Hoyt's room, and Hoyt says, you got to give back the sign. Why'd you take the sign? And Arthur's like, why would I take a sign? And he's like, I don't know what, why does anyone do anything or whatever? And then you get that close in of Arthur's face, and he's like, has that morphine grin of like, I'm gonna kill the fuck out of you one day. That's what it looks like, He's like smiling, and you hear like the kicking sounds, and then there's the cut to the scene where he's in the alley and he's kicking what people say are trash bags, but when I saw the movie, I thought it was Arthur kicking Hoyt, like killing him in the alley. But it was like his...
I totally missed that. Okay.
It was like his daydream. But the thing what's interesting about that scene is that a lot of the movie is very dark. Like the palette is like dark greens and blues and all this kind of stuff. But that scene, there's a lot of sunlight. Like a shit ton of sunlight. It's kind of like...
Oh, wow.
It's sun after rain, which is like... I don't know, perhaps like a metaphor for like a resolution in his head, right?
Right.
So I thought that was him daydreaming about killing his boss and taking all his anger out. And that kind of idea for me was reinforced later in the movie, especially when he kills his mom. When Arthur kills his mom, it's so sunny in the room. And then after he kills his mom, he looks out of the window and he looks up at the sun. And so I felt like scenes with a lot of sunlight were like almost like indicative of some kind of daydream or delusion. Because when he dances on the stairs, right, it's sunny too.
Right.
So I don't know. I felt like they were playing around with that, or maybe it was like coincidental. But that's what I got from that.
No, I don't think it's coincidental at all. Like you said, whenever he was happy, dancing, that I think what you're saying is true, because maybe it was the only times that he was lucid, or just excited about what he just did, right? I don't know. That makes sense. Interesting. I haven't thought about it. I have to see it again now. See?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that Eric's not gonna see it again.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I might catch it on HBO or something one of these days, but honestly, there's so much coming out that I'm excited about. That yeah, I enjoyed it, but again, like the entire De Niro subplot is essentially just Scorsese's King of Comedy, and then I would definitely recommend Taxi Driver. It's the whole the way that he prowls the streets looking for meaning, and just all the scenes in the bedroom alone, and especially the mirror sequence, but just the vibe, the atmosphere from Taxi Driver is just. And I don't want to say that it's an entirely derivative piece of work, but I do think that Joker has some of its own merit, some of its own style. But I would urge everyone to see King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, two very great pieces of art that I think Joker took a little too liberally from for my taste.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and then casting De Niro in the movie didn't help because, I mean, obviously, if you're a fan of those two movies, and then you come see Robert De Niro in another movie, you already know he's done Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, right?
Yep.
So you kind of.
You know what's intriguing about that is that I learned that one of Phoenix's first movies that he ever saw, or that turned him on to acting, was a De Niro film. So it was kind of like a full circle for him in that way. Kind of just an eerie kind of another part of the movie is also like the production of it and how, everything got jumped on board, and because this idea was Phoenix wanted to do a film that studied a comic villain, but years and years ago, and as far back as 2015, and they didn't. Phillips didn't pitch Joker until 2016, which I think is kind of interesting because when they started filming, it's 2018, and the reason why I think that's interesting has to do with the political kind of tone that people got from it, where you have the clowns who, and all three times that I've seen the Joker, most of them I think were youthful people, in their teens to 30s, it looked like. But they have that sign, resist, kill the rich, and you wonder if Phillips is making a commentary about what he thinks about youth movements today. And I know that he has expressed frustration and annoyance in feeling like he's not able to make comedies because of, cancel culture and, you can't make this joke because it's insensitive to this group of people.
Oh, right.
And so
I heard, yeah.
The demonstrators in the movie kind of represent these phony, in his view, perhaps phony kind of protesters that are in his way. I did feel for me, I felt like the protesters, I felt the first time was why are these even here? Why am I looking
at? There's a story about that on going around too, and it has to do with the garbage strike. That's what I heard. Because they haven't collected the trash and the super rats, and so there's some protests going on about that.
I get why they're there. I just as a I guess what I was thinking is this need to be part of the Joker story. You could have the super rats and all that, and the trash bags and general I don't know, frustration within the city, does that mean that they have to be holding resist signs? Resist is a very triggering word because that is definitely the language of like Trump era resist. And so I think that that's a very targeted word.
You just said.
Well,
you just. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Well,
I'm just laughing because he just triggered.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. I'm just laughing like the Joker because I already know what you're going to say, Eric. But go ahead.
I would argue that the protesters are another. I mean, it's another piece of borrowed imagery, but it's an irresponsible one in the sense that resist and the general vibe of the protesters is not only indicative of the current moment, it's specifically indicative of the left, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, similar movements. And I think that I wouldn't argue that the tone overall is some, modern day Death Wish type situation where we have a blatantly right wing type movie that's speaking out against quote unquote liberal ideology and whatnot. But I would say that the protesters in the movie have specifically leftist signs. Some of the language is specifically right wing and just kind of loaded, and it doesn't seem to be responsibly doled out. It doesn't seem like there's a conscious choice to do it in such and such a way to make a message out of it. It just seems that he's taking loaded imagery and loaded slogans and putting them in place of, instead of creating something, he's just borrowing these very loaded things and I think a little bit too cavalier of a style because, I mean, is the messaging, I don't think his messaging is that Antifa and Black Lives Matter and equivalent movements are chaotic evil groups that are going to burn Gotham City down. I don't think he's trying to say that, but I am saying that the way that it's characterized, the way that he uses that imagery, people could have that takeaway just because his messaging is so muddied. There's no consistency in how he's using that.
Interesting. And I'm sorry to be laughing. I just felt like the character because I was already laughing at my own joke.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, no. For Nelson, who doesn't know, Eric he wrote a very great political satire. So that's the reason I was laughing because I'm like, oh my God, let's just get Eric on the lawn and talk about politics. Yay! Anyways, no, seriously. What's that? I'm sorry, what?
Sorry,
what happened? I could not hear you. Hello? Okay, I don't know what happened. Nelson, you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was just laughing. Anyhow, for those, and another thing I wanted to mention too. Well, there's so many things I want to mention about this movie. I may have to do a part 2 because this has actually gotten a lot different than I thought it would have been, which is great because I don't like the fact that there's so many videos on YouTube right now that are copying each other. I can tell that one copied the other. Exactly. They're just gathering the facts from other people and then they're not making their own conclusion. That's why I didn't want to have anything written down or anything because I wanted to go off the top of my head what I remember from the movie and not I'm just giving a general impression of the movie. I don't want to there's some videos out there that there's like minute by minute what happened in the movie and I'm like, really? Do I want to sit here for 3 hours? Or would I rather watch another movie? Yeah, I don't have time for that. Anyways, but yeah, there's actually another character that I wanted to talk to about Murray Franklin, who is the host of the talk show. And at the beginning, throughout the movie, I guess, you see different versions of this character. First of all, he's just a TV celebrity. The next time we see him is when Arthur is fantasizing about being in the audience, and then he says, "Come here," and they're making fun of him at first, but then they like him, or he says, I will be proud if you were my son, or something like that. And then ultimately we see him on TV making fun of Arthur. And then at the end of the movie we see him again. So there's different an arc to his character, which is interesting. He wasn't the same person, which I think is great. It wasn't the same character, and Robert De Niro played him very well, all four different types, right? But it's interesting because there's not one side to his character. So which one was the right one? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's so. I think when we first see Murray is I guess in Penny Fleck and Arthur's room, or Penny's room, when he's on the TV. But then we go inside to Arthur's daydream about being in the show. And I thought what was very interesting about that is that Murray's language is like he calls Arthur pal, as in like a very fatherly kind of thing. Like, and he says, that line where, I would give it all up in a heartbeat to have a kid like you.
That's what he says. Okay.
But what's interesting to me when I made note of that and his use of the word pal is that that's what Thomas Wayne says in the bathroom when Arthur confronts him. He calls Arthur pal. And so, like, it's really so, like, intriguing because you just don't know what scene is really playing out. Right. And so, like, to your question, what Murray Franklin is, like, kind of the real Murray. When Arthur shoots him, Murray's an asshole. Mm-hmm. And obviously Murray invited him on the show. And so you can, right. And I think that part, but I mean, I don't even know. I mean, is that part real too? I don't think there's ever going to be a clear, was it real, was it not, real? Kind of thing.
I don't, now that you said that, I don't know, but I think it is real. But then again, I don't know.
But I mean, it's so, when you really think about it, it's so improbable that, let's pretend we live in this world, okay? Let's pretend we live in Joker world. All right, you have this stand-up failed comic going to Pogo's who makes, no one laugh. He makes no one laugh when he goes up. That's the clip that Murray picks and brings him onto the show. But
it's happened. It's happened before where Ellen or people
Arthur
would bring people.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's the other thing
it has
too,
happened before.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I was telling my dad the first time that I saw it is like, it's interesting. I don't know if they really meant to make a commentary, but it is interesting how shows do invite these people onto their show without knowing anything about them. Really,
they do that.
And the whole point is to make fun of them. Like I think about the Maury Show, or Jerry Springer,
or
things
Jenny
like
Jones.
this, and you really never know who the person is, and of course, every person is there at their own expense because they're there to be a mockery, to be an entertainment. So I can see a way where, like you say, it could be true that Arthur was picked.
I think it is true.
On the show.
I mean, why not? Let's make fun of the Joker in person. Sure, that can happen. But anyhow, guys, this has actually been a very interesting show. It's already been 40 minutes, so I do have to wrap it up, guys. Yeah. However, I don't want to go out without saying thank you, Nelson Alburquenque. Thank you, Eric DePriester. You guys rock, and you guys are invited to the second part of this interview or this podcast. Or Eric, I don't think it's going to do it again, unless it involves Scorsese. We can review Taxi Driver. Then I'll have him come on again, right, Eric? Or maybe not. He's gone. I think he's gone.
Eric, like, I'm out of here. Bye.
No, I think I gotta. Yeah, he actually dropped out. He had to. Oh, I see what happened. Oh, I see. He's okay. What happened? Anyways, some technical difficulty, guys. He did not stay on the phone this long. However, his information is on the link here below. He's actually trying to finance his Hollywood. So he did a show called Treason. So it went from the stage, and now he wants to do it into a film. And so I do have that link below if you want to fundraise it, if you want to donate to his fundraising. It's called Seed and Spark. Anyways, so that's below. And I have Nelson, who of course is. Are you still playing with Tikal-san?
Things have changed. I'm actually working on a story series called Legends of the Night. Yes.
That will be another show altogether.
Yeah.
But it was great. Actually, I actually got more than what I needed, but I think we didn't cover everything because there's the fact of the mother, there's the part of the girlfriend, and there's the part of the father, and there's the bad man, side of the story here that we didn't cover. So yeah, I think we're gonna have to do a part 2, but I might have to see it again because I missed so many things that you noticed, Nelson. So
I think you should. And you know what? I just want to say real quickly that I think a lot of people were turned off from the film from the get-go because of the reviews that were out and kind of the buzz. I saw a lot of people posting articles and saying that they were not going to see the movie because the reviewer said it didn't agree with their sensibilities. I think this is the kind of movie that you shouldn't be afraid of. It's at the end of the day, it's an art piece with so many moving parts, a whole ensemble of artists working in different areas, wardrobe, camera work, this and that. And so I really encourage people to, if you really want to get involved in the discussion, to go out and see it. And I think it's the best way to learn about it. So. Right.
I agree, Nelson. But we do have to go. I do, again, want to thank you for calling tonight. I'm going to be posting this on YouTube, and hopefully we'll have a part 2 or part 3 or maybe
part 4, part 5, part 6.
Or part 4, part 5, or Rocky 4, or Rocky 5. But anyways, I do want to say thank you, and here is Deb, who didn't call either, or Yvette. Anyways, next time, guys.
It's a Lowe's Blog Talk Radio.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.